Clean up that spill, Maya. I don't want to see a single drop on my floor again.
Madame Rose's sharp voice echoed through the grand hallway, icy and unforgiving. Maya Williams' hands trembled as she bent down to mop the cold marble floor, water splashing slightly beyond the worn rag. The tension in the air was suffocating, thicker than the expensive Persian rugs beneath her knees.
Pause. What would you do if every move you made was watched, judged, and torn apart?
Welcome to BUP Stories, where we dive into tales of resilience and redemption. Madame Rose swept down the staircase, her silk robe whispering against the marble, her pale blue eyes locked on Maya, scanning every movement with a cold, calculating gaze. I need the breakfast room spotless before the guests arrive. No dust, no smudges, and don't forget the silver.
It better shine like the diamonds on my neck. Maya nodded silently, swallowing the lump in her throat.
She had barely started to clean when Madame Rose returned, pacing behind her like a storm about to break.
Pause. Can one woman's courage change a house ruled by fear? Stay with BUP Stories to find out. You call that dusting? Look at this table. Madame Rose snapped, pointing at a speck Maya had missed. Useless. Absolutely useless. Maya's cheeks flushed, but she didn't reply.
She worked faster, trying to meet every impossible expectation, every merciless command.
And the silver, where's the silver polishing cloth? I asked for it 20 minutes ago.
I'm looking for it now, ma'am, Maya said quietly.
Looking isn't good enough, Madame Rose hissed. Get it, and don't come back until it's perfect.
Minutes later, Madame Rose stormed into the living room, her voice trembling with fury.
Where is my diamond necklace? The one I wore last night. It's gone.
Her eyes darted accusingly around the room, then snapped to Maya.
You. Where is it? She spat. Maya froze. I don't know, ma'am.
I didn't touch it, she said softly. You lying, thieving little. Madame Rose's voice cracked with venom before she stopped herself, eyes blazing. I should call the police on you, you worthless, good-for-nothing servant. The other staff froze in their places, whispering behind cupped hands. The housekeeper's eyes narrowed as she looked at Maya with suspicion.
If you took it, give it back now. Maya's heart pounded. I swear I didn't take anything.
I've been cleaning all morning, she pleaded.
Madame Rose advanced, voice low and fierce. You think I'm stupid? A black maid stealing from me?
This is why no one lasts in this house. She raised her hand to strike, but before she could, the front door slammed open. Mr. Richard, the mansion's owner and Madame Rose's husband, strode in, alerted by the commotion. His face darkened when he heard the accusations.
What is going on here? He demanded. Your servant has stolen my necklace, Madame Rose declared, pointing at Maya. She's a liar and a thief.
Without warning, Mr. Richard grabbed Maya by the arm, shaking her roughly.
Is this true?
He barked. I swear, no, sir, Maya gasped. She stumbled backward, tripping over the edge of a rug and crashing into the glass door of the conservatory. The cold, sharp edge pressed against her head as she fell to the floor, stunned.
The room went silent except for Maya's ragged breathing.
Madame Rose stared down at her, a cruel smirk playing on her lips, but then her gaze flickered toward the side table. Slowly, she reached down and pulled out the diamond necklace, tangled and hidden beneath a stack of magazines. Her eyes met Maya's, but she said nothing.
The necklace glinted in the light, truth hanging between them like a fragile thread.
The evening arrived with a lavish party hosted in the mansion's grand ballroom. Guests in glittering gowns and sharp tuxedos mingled under sparkling chandeliers, unaware of the tension simmering beneath the surface. Suddenly, Madame Rose clutched her chest, her face pale as she staggered, swaying unsteadily.
Gasps echoed through the room. Maya, still in her uniform, rushed forward instinctively. Someone call 911.
She shouted, pressing her hands gently against Madame Rose's back, guiding her to a nearby seat. As Madame Rose's breathing became shallow and her skin cold, Maya acted quickly, recalling the emergency training she'd received years ago. She tilted Madame Rose's head back, checked her airway, and carefully began chest compressions while shouting for help.
Minutes later, paramedics arrived, taking over from Maya.
Thanks to Maya's swift actions, Madame Rose stabilized and was soon sitting up, her eyes blinking slowly as color returned to her cheeks. Later, as the party continued, Madame Rose found Maya near the edge of the crowd.
"You saved me tonight," she said quietly. Maybe you're not like the others." Maya nodded, exhaustion and relief washing over her. "I'm here for Deborah. I'll do whatever it takes." Madame Rose's icy demeanor softened just a fraction.
"Then maybe you're not so useless after all."
Maya swallowed a smile.
The battle wasn't over, not by far, but perhaps, for the first time since she arrived, there was a sliver of hope. In this mansion of glass and shadows, she might just find a way to survive.
Tomorrow, the war would begin again.
But tonight, Maya allowed herself a moment's peace.
Because some fights are worth every scar, and every drop of spilled water. Pause. Want to know how Maya's courage reshapes this house of secrets? Keep watching BUP Stories for the next chapter of her incredible journey.
The morning after the ordeal, the mansion felt heavier, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Maya awoke before dawn in her small, sparse quarters at the back of the house. The thin curtains let in just enough pale light for her to see the tired lines on her face reflected in the cracked mirror. She tied her worn scarf tightly around her head, a ritual that steadied her nerves and reminded her of the strength she carried within.
Downstairs, the sound of clinking dishes and the hum of the kitchen came to life.
Maya moved quietly through the labyrinth of hallways, careful not to disturb the fragile peace that had settled overnight. Mama Roni, already busy at the stove, looked up and gave her a warm, albeit tired, smile. "You did well last night, Maya," Mama said softly, flipping a pancake with practiced ease.
"Not many could keep their head when the storm hits." Maya offered a weak smile in return, feeling the weight of the praise.
"I just did what I had to do," she replied, pouring herself a cup of coffee from the pot on the counter. The bitter liquid grounded her, a small comfort amid the chaos of the previous day. The mansion stirred as the staff began their daily routines. Maya made her way to the grand dining room to begin cleaning, the memory of Madame Rose's pale face and shallow breath still fresh in her mind. The other servants cast quick, wary glances her way, some nodding in silent acknowledgement of her courage, others retreating into hushed conversations. The air was thick with unspoken tension and curiosity. As she worked, the front doors opened, and Mr. Richard appeared, impeccably dressed and carrying the weight of authority like a second skin.
His eyes found Maya immediately.
There was a flicker of something unspoken, concern, respect, maybe even grudging admiration. He nodded briefly and moved on, leaving Maya wondering what thoughts crossed his mind.
Later that morning, Madame Rose entered the kitchen, her usual imperious aura replaced by a fragile vulnerability.
She wore a simple silk robe, its deep emerald color contrasting with the pallor of her skin. Her eyes, once cold and calculating, held a softness that caught Maya off guard. "Maya," she called quietly, her voice lacking its usual sharpness.
"Come here." Madame Rose gestured toward the side table. "Sit with me for a moment."
Maya hesitated but obeyed, perching on the edge of a chair, her hands folded tightly in her lap.
"I owe you an apology," Madame Rose began, her gaze dropping to her hands. "Last night, I was scared, and I was angry."
"You didn't deserve my words or my accusations."
Maya's heart pounded, disbelief mingling with fragile hope. "Thank you, ma'am," she whispered.
"I didn't expect—" "No," Madame Rose interrupted, shaking her head.
"I didn't expect anything from you. That's the problem.
I've spent so long expecting perfection, control, but I've forgotten what it means to be human."
The confession hung in the air, heavy and sincere.
Maya found herself leaning in, sensing a rare opportunity to bridge the gap between them.
"Madame Rose," Maya said gently, "we all have burdens. I carry mine for my daughter. I think you carry yours for many reasons."
Madame Rose sighed deeply, a sound that seemed to release years of tension.
"You're right.
I built walls so high around myself that no one has been able to get through.
But last night, you broke them down, whether you meant to or not."
Their conversation was interrupted by the sharp ring of the mansion's telephone.
Madame Rose answered, listening intently.
Her face paled slightly, then she hung up and looked at Maya with a faint smile.
The guests are arriving early today, she said. And I need everything to be perfect. Maya nodded, understanding that the peace between them was tentative and fragile. She busied herself with preparations, polishing silverware, arranging flowers, straightening fine linens. As the afternoon sun poured through the stained glass windows, the mansion transformed. Elegant guests began to arrive, their laughter and chatter filling the once quiet halls. Maya moved among them, a quiet presence, her mind alert for any sign of trouble. Madame Rose was the perfect hostess, her grace and poise captivating the room. Yet beneath her composed exterior, Maya could sense an undercurrent of anxiety, a lingering shadow from the night before. During a brief moment alone, Maya overheard a whispered conversation between two guests discussing Madame Rose's reputation. Is it true what they say about her, that she's as cold as ice? Maya's gaze softened. She knew the truth was far more complex. Madame Rose was a woman shaped by pain and fear, struggling to find her place in a world that demanded too much. As the evening wore on, Maya found herself drawn into small conversations, her gentle demeanor winning over some of the more skeptical staff and guests. She shared stories of her daughter, her hopes, and her fears, reminding those around her of the common threads that bind humanity together. Near the end of the night, Madame Rose approached Maya again, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Thank you, Maya, she said simply. For saving me, for staying, for reminding me that even in the darkest places, there can be light. Maya smiled, feeling a warmth she hadn't known in a long time. It's what we do for those we love, she replied. And for those who need us to be strong. The mansion, once a fortress of coldness and command, now held a fragile hope, a testament to resilience, compassion, and the power of unexpected alliances. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But for tonight, Maya allowed herself to believe that change was possible, even in the most unlikely places. Pause, curious how this fragile hope transforms the mansion? Stay tuned to BUP Stories for the next chapter of Maya's incredible journey. The morning sun cast a golden glow through the tall windows of the mansion as Maya stepped into the expansive kitchen. The scent of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the faint aroma of orange blossoms from the garden outside. It was the kind of morning that promised new beginnings. Yet Maya felt the weight of the previous days still pressing on her shoulders. She moved with practiced grace, though her mind was restless, turning over the events that had brought her here and the fragile truce that now existed between her and Madame Rose. As she arranged the breakfast table, the heavy oak door creaked open, and Mr. Richard entered, his tailored suit impeccable, his salt and pepper hair neatly combed back, his eyes holding a sharpness that betrayed years of business dealings and guarded secrets. He nodded to Maya, his gaze lingering just a moment longer than necessary. Maya, he said, his voice low but firm. I want you to know that I'm aware of what happened last night. Your quick thinking saved Rose's life. There was no warmth in his tone, but there was acknowledgement, a rare gift in this house. That said, trust here is fragile. I expect you to continue proving yourself. Maya met his eyes steadily. I understand, sir, and I will do my best. He offered a brief nod and left as quietly as he had come, leaving Maya to consider the delicate balance she now walked between survival and suspicion. Madame Rose appeared soon after, descending the grand staircase in a simple yet elegant robe. Her gaze fell on Maya with something almost resembling gratitude, though her usual guarded demeanor remained intact. Come with me, she said curtly, leading Maya down a corridor to a private sitting room. The room was decorated in muted tones, heavy velvet drapes framing the windows, soft light filtering in through the crystal chandelier. I need your help with something, Madame Rose began, sitting on a plush armchair and motioning for Maya to sit across from her. The party last night was exhausting. I'm not used to showing weakness, but without you, who knows what would have happened. Maya hesitated, then nodded. I'm glad I was there. Your health is important. Madame Rose's eyes softened. Yes, it is. More than I've ever admitted. But it's not just the health. It's the control, the need to appear perfect. For the first time, Maya saw beyond the sharp exterior, the vulnerability of a woman burdened by expectations and fear. I spent so long building this image, Madame Rose confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. It's easier to rule with an iron fist than to admit I'm afraid. Maya reached out, placing a gentle hand on Madame Rose's. Fear is human. It doesn't make you weak.
A flicker of something like relief crossed Madame Rose's face, but it was quickly replaced by a sigh.
I don't know how to change. Not yet, Maya replied gently.
The moment was interrupted by the arrival of the housekeeper, who informed Madame Rose that a guest had requested a private word.
With a final look at Maya, Madame Rose rose and left the room.
Later that day, Maya found herself in the garden, taking a rare moment to breathe in the fresh air. The manicured hedges and blooming roses were a stark contrast to the turmoil she felt inside. Her phone vibrated with a message from the hospital, a reminder of the looming medical bills and Deborah's upcoming procedure. The weight of her responsibilities pressed heavily, but Maya's resolve remained unbroken. As she turned to head back inside, she was approached by the head gardener, an older man named Samuel, who had worked at the estate for decades. His face was weathered but kind, and he offered a small smile. "Miss Maya," he said, his voice gentle. "I've been watching how you've handled things here. It's not easy, but you carry yourself with dignity.
That means a lot in this place."
Maya smiled softly, touched by his words.
"Thank you, Samuel. It's been hard, but I have to keep going for my daughter." Samuel nodded knowingly. "We all have battles, don't we? Sometimes it's the quiet ones like you who make the biggest difference."
The day moved on, and as the sun dipped low, casting long shadows over the estate, Maya returned to the kitchen. The staff were busy preparing for another evening event, their movements brisk but tired.
Maya joined Mama Roni in peeling vegetables, the older woman's presence a comforting constant.
"You're becoming part of the family," Mama Roni said with a wink. Even Madame Rose's walls seemed to be cracking a little.
Maya laughed softly. "I never imagined this place could feel like home."
That night, as Maya lay awake, her thoughts drifted to the fragile connection she had begun to form with Madame Rose and the subtle shifts within the household.
Trust was still a delicate thread, easily broken, but it was there, faint yet undeniable. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but Maya felt a quiet hope blossoming within her. For the first time in a long while, she believed that change was possible, not just for herself and her daughter, but for everyone bound by the invisible chains of fear and expectation. Pause. Can Maya turn this house of shadows into a place of light? Don't miss the next part of her journey on BUP Stories.
The next morning, the mansion awakened with the same grandeur, but an undercurrent of tension lingered like a storm on the horizon. Maya entered the grand dining hall to begin her duties, aware that today would test the fragile peace she had begun to build. The polished silver gleamed under the crystal chandeliers, and the heavy scent of fresh lilies filled the air, masking the lingering unease. Madame Rose was already there, seated stiffly at the head of the long mahogany table, her expression unreadable. She watched Maya with those piercing blue eyes, waiting, measuring.
"Maya," she said sharply. "The guest list has changed. We expect more people tonight. I want the house impeccable. No mistakes." Maya nodded, setting out fine china and crystal glasses with meticulous care.
"Of course, ma'am, I'll make sure everything is perfect." Madame Rose's gaze hardened.
"I don't want promises. I want results."
The word stung, but Maya kept her composure. She had learned to steel herself against such barbs. Throughout the morning, Maya moved like a shadow through the mansion, attending to every detail, dusting, polishing, arranging flowers, coordinating with the kitchen staff. The tension was palpable. Whispers followed her as she passed, eyes darting between her and Madame Rose. Some of the staff were still wary, their loyalty torn between the icy mistress of the house and the new maid who had dared to save her life. Around midday, Maya found herself in the vast sitting room when Madame Rose approached silently, carrying a folded note.
"This arrived for you," Madame Rose said, handing the paper over without a word. Maya unfolded the note, recognizing the elegant handwriting immediately.
It was an invitation to a charity luncheon, a prestigious event attended by some of the most influential women in the city.
"You're expected to accompany me," Madame Rose said, her voice low but firm. "I want you to meet them." Maya blinked in surprise. "Me, ma'am, at a luncheon like that?"
Madame Rose's lips curled into a faint, almost imperceptible smile.
"Yes, you. It's time the world saw you as more than just a maid.
Before Maya could respond, the mansion's bell chimed, signaling the arrival of guests. Madame Rose's demeanor shifted instantly, cold, composed, commanding. She swept toward the door, her silk robe billowing behind her.
Maya followed, heart pounding.
This was unfamiliar territory, but she was determined not to falter. The evening unfolded with the expected elegance and tension. The guests arrived in sleek cars, their laughter and chatter filling the grand foyer. Maya watched as Madame Rose navigated the crowd with practiced ease, the perfect hostess hiding her vulnerabilities behind a mask of grace. At one point, a wealthy socialite approached Maya, eyes narrowing slightly. "I must say, it's unusual to see someone like you here. How did you come to be part of Madame Rose's circle?" Maya met the woman's gaze steadily. "I'm here because of hard work and a daughter who needs me to be strong." The socialite's lips twitched into a smile, perhaps surprised by Maya's confidence. Later, Madame Rose pulled Maya aside. "They were impressed," she whispered. "This could be an opportunity for you and for me." Maya nodded, a flicker of hope igniting in her chest. But just as the night seemed to settle into a comfortable rhythm, a sharp commotion erupted near the back of the room. Madame Rose clutched her chest and staggered, her face paling rapidly. The guests gasped, and the room fell into chaos. Maya sprang into action, weaving through the startled crowd to reach Madame Rose's side. "Stay with me, ma'am," she urged, placing a steadying hand on her shoulder. Madame Rose's breaths came shallow, her eyes fluttering shut. Maya's heart hammered as she lowered her to a nearby couch and began to check her pulse, recalling the emergency steps she had used before. "Someone call 911. Maya shouted, her voice cutting through the panic. The minutes that followed felt like hours, but Maya's calm and decisive actions kept Madame Rose stable until the paramedics arrived. The crowd watched in stunned silence as the woman who once ruled them with an iron fist was now vulnerable and fragile in the hands of the maid she had once scorned. After the commotion died down and Madame Rose was taken away for further care, Maya found herself alone in the quiet hallway. She leaned against the cool wall, her breath shaky but steady. The night had tested her in ways she hadn't imagined, but she had risen to the challenge. When Madame Rose returned days later, there was a noticeable change. Her icy demeanor had softened, replaced by a quiet gratitude. She approached Maya one evening as the household settled down. "You saved me," she said simply. "Not just my life, but something more." Maya met her gaze, feeling the weight of unspoken words between them. "Maybe we both needed saving," Maya replied softly. In the days that followed, Madame Rose began to treat Maya differently, less as a servant and more as an ally. She sought her opinion on household matters, included her in small decisions, and even asked about Deborah's health. Maya still faced challenges and skepticism from others in the mansion, but the battle lines had shifted. She was no longer just the maid. She was a woman carving out her place in a world that had once seemed impenetrable. As she prepared for the next day, Maya allowed herself a rare moment of hope. The journey was far from over, but for the first time, she believed that change was possible, not just for herself and her daughter, but for the mansion and everyone within its walls. Pause. Will Maya's strength reshape this house forever? Don't miss the next chapter on BUP Stories. The mansion seemed to breathe differently that morning, as if the walls themselves were adjusting to the subtle shift in power dynamics. Maya entered the grand hallway with a renewed sense of purpose, her steps lighter yet purposeful. The memory of Madame Rose's collapse and the fragile truce that followed lingered in her mind like a whispered promise. Today, however, she knew the challenges would not simply vanish. They would only take new forms. As she passed the staff quarters, whispers floated on the air. Some voices were tinged with admiration, others laced with skepticism. Maya had saved Madame Rose's life, yes, but old habits and loyalties die hard in a place ruled by fear and rigid hierarchy. In the kitchen, Mama Roni greeted Maya with a warm smile that belied the tension in her eyes. "You're doing well, child," she said quietly, handing Maya a freshly brewed cup of coffee. "But remember, not everyone here will be happy about the changes." Maya nodded, sipping the bitter liquid that sharpened her senses. "I know. I'm ready for whatever comes." The morning passed in a blur of tasks, polishing silver, arranging flowers, inspecting linens.
Madame Rose's gaze followed Maya's every move, a silent but constant presence. Their relationship remained delicate, a fragile dance of mutual necessity and cautious trust. Around midday, the tranquility shattered. Maya was in the conservatory tending to the orchids when the housekeeper stormed in, her face flushed with anger. "Maya, have you seen my uniform? It's missing from the laundry room." Maya shook her head, puzzled. "No, ma'am. I haven't been near the laundry room today." The housekeeper's eyes narrowed. "Don't play innocent. Someone here is trying to make trouble, and it's not going to be tolerated." Word spread quickly. Soon, other staff members whispered about missing items, misplaced keys, and petty thefts. The atmosphere thickened with suspicion, and all eyes turned toward Maya. In the dining hall, Madame Rose summoned Maya with a sharp tone that brooked no refusal. "Explain yourself," she demanded, folding her arms. "My uniform is missing, and it conveniently disappears after you were the last to handle the laundry." "Care to explain?" Maya met her gaze steadily. "I didn't take it, ma'am. I don't even go near the laundry room when it's not my duty." Madame Rose's lips curled in a disdainful smile. "Words are cheap. Actions speak louder." Before Maya could respond, a soft voice interrupted from the corner of the room. It was Samuel, the gardener, stepping forward with quiet authority. "Madame Rose, perhaps we should investigate properly before casting blame," he suggested calmly. "Accusations without evidence can destroy trust." Madame Rose's eyes flickered with irritation, but she nodded slowly. "Fine, but if this is another one of your games, Maya, I won't hesitate to throw you out." The staff began a discreet search, scrutinizing every corner of the mansion. Maya felt the weight of every glance, every whisper, but she refused to show fear. Her heart beat steadily, anchored by the memory of her daughter's smile and the promise she had made to fight for her. Hours later, as the sun dipped low, Madame Rose called Maya into her private sitting room. "I found your uniform," she said coldly, tossing the folded garment onto the velvet ottoman. It was behind the pantry door, where no one usually looks. Maya blinked, caught off guard. "I didn't put it there." Madame Rose's eyes narrowed. "I suppose that means someone else is responsible. But don't think this ends here. I will be watching you." The words were a veiled threat, but Maya stood tall, refusing to be cowed. As the evening approached, Maya found herself reflecting on the precariousness of her position. Madame Rose's suspicions, though unfounded, were a stark reminder that trust was still a fragile commodity in this house. That night, as Maya prepared for bed in her modest room, a soft knock came at the door. She opened it to find Madame Rose standing there, holding a small tray with a glass of water and a note. "For Deborah," Madame Rose said quietly. "I spoke with a friend who runs a children's charity. They may be able to help with the medical bills." Maya's eyes filled with tears, overwhelmed by the unexpected kindness. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything," Madame Rose replied. "Just keep fighting, and don't forget you're stronger than you think." As the door closed behind her, Maya felt a warmth spread through her, a fragile thread of hope woven through the cold walls of the mansion. Tomorrow would bring new battles, new challenges. But Maya was no longer alone. She was a force to be reckoned with. And this house, with all its shadows and secrets, was beginning to bend to her quiet strength. Pause. Can Maya turn suspicion into trust? Find out on BUP Stories as her journey continues. The dawn broke softly over the mansion, casting long shadows across the manicured lawns and ornate stone pathways. Maya stirred awake in her modest room, the cool morning air brushing against her skin through the open window. Despite the challenges that had come with her new life, there was a growing sense of determination fueling her every step. Today, she resolved, she would press forward, not just as a servant, but as a woman fighting for her daughter's future. Downstairs, the mansion hummed quietly with the early preparations of the staff. Maya slipped into her uniform, the fabric feeling heavier with the weight of responsibility she carried. As she made her way into the kitchen, Mama Roni was already stirring a pot of porridge, the aroma of cinnamon and vanilla filling the air. "Good morning, Maya," Mama greeted her warmly.
You look more settled each day.
Madame Rose's favor, I hear, is beginning to shift. Maya offered a small smile. It's still delicate, but yes, I think things are improving. Mama Roni nodded thoughtfully.
Just remember, strength and patience walk hand in hand. You have both. The morning passed in a flurry of activity. Maya meticulously prepared the sitting room for an afternoon meeting Madame Rose had scheduled with several influential women from the city's philanthropic circles. The event was important. Madame Rose hoped to regain some of her social standing after the scandal surrounding her health scare.
As Maya adjusted the floral arrangements, Madame Rose entered the room, her presence commanding immediate attention.
Her eyes softened slightly when they met Maya's.
Thank you for your help, Madame Rose said, her voice sincere but controlled. This afternoon must go smoothly. Maya nodded, feeling the gravity of the moment. I understand, ma'am. I'll do everything I can. The women arrived shortly after, their elegant gowns brushing the polished floors as they took seats around the large mahogany table. The conversation flowed effortlessly, discussions of charity projects, social obligations, and the subtle politics that governed their world. Maya served tea and refreshments with quiet efficiency, noticing the occasional glance or whispered comment directed her way. She was aware of the unspoken judgments but refused to let them undermine her. Midway through the gathering, one of the women, a sharp-eyed socialite named Eleanor, addressed Madame Rose. I hear your household has undergone quite a transformation recently. It's rare to see such loyalty among your staff. Madame Rose glanced at Maya, a faint smile tugging at her lips. Indeed, Maya has been invaluable.
She has a resilience and grace that inspire us all.
The room murmured with polite approval, though Eleanor's gaze lingered skeptically on Maya.
After the meeting concluded, Madame Rose requested Maya accompany her to the gardens for a brief walk. The crisp afternoon air carried the scent of blooming jasmine, a stark contrast to the formality inside the mansion.
I want to apologize, Madame Rose began, her voice softer than usual, for how I treated you before.
Fear made me cruel, but you have shown me kindness I didn't expect.
Maya looked at her, surprised but grateful. Thank you, ma'am. That means a lot.
Madame Rose paused, then continued.
I'm learning that control is an illusion. Trust is the real power.
The two women shared a quiet moment, the tension easing between them like the melting of frost in the morning sun.
Later that evening, Maya received a call from the hospital.
Deborah's condition had stabilized, but the surgery was scheduled sooner than anticipated. The news struck Maya like a thunderclap. Her window to prepare was closing rapidly. That night, she lay awake, the weight of uncertainty pressing down, but beneath the fear was a steady flame of hope. Madame Rose's unexpected support had opened doors Maya never imagined, and she vowed to walk through them for her daughter's sake. As the mansion settled into silence, Maya whispered a prayer, not just for Deborah, but for herself, for the strength to face the battles ahead, the courage to break free from the shadows, and the grace to rise, no matter how many times she might fall. Tomorrow was coming, and with it, a chance to rewrite their story.
Pause. Will Maya's courage carry her through the toughest trial yet? Stay with BUP Stories to witness the next step in her journey.
The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of the mansion, casting long shadows across the polished floors. Maya moved quietly through the vast halls, her mind heavy with the news from the hospital. Deborah's surgery was imminent, and every task she completed felt like another step closer to that moment, another step closer to hope or heartbreak. As she entered the kitchen to prepare breakfast, Mama Roni was already bustling about, her calm presence a steady anchor in the whirlwind of Maya's emotions. You look tired, child, she said softly, sliding a cup of strong coffee toward Maya. But remember, strength comes in moments like these. We'll get through this together.
Maya nodded, grateful for the older woman's unwavering support. Thank you, Mama Roni. I don't know what I'd do without you.
The day's chores blurred into one another. Maya polished silverware, arranged flowers, and managed the household's many demands with quiet efficiency. Madame Rose observed her from a distance, a complex mixture of admiration and something deeper flickering behind her eyes. That afternoon, a disturbance shattered the routine. The housekeeper, flushed with anger, confronted Maya near the laundry room.
Have you been in here?
she demanded, pointing accusingly at the neatly folded linens. "Several items have gone missing, and you're the last one who handled the laundry."
Maya's heart tightened. "I haven't taken anything. I was focused on my tasks all day."
Rumors began to swirl among the staff, whispers filling the corridors, eyes filled with suspicion. Maya felt the weight of judgment pressing down, a reminder that trust was fragile in this place. Madame Rose summoned Maya to her private study, her expression unreadable. "Your uniform was found behind the pantry," she said coolly, tossing the folded garment onto a mahogany desk.
"You may have an explanation."
"I don't know how it got there," Maya replied calmly.
"I've been nothing but honest."
Madame Rose's gaze pierced through her.
"Honesty can be convenient. I'll be watching."
The threat hung heavy, but Maya refused to retreat. Her resolve only hardened, fueled by the stakes at home.
That evening, as the mansion settled into quiet, Madame Rose approached Maya with a small envelope.
"For Deborah," she said softly. "A donation from a friend's charity.
Perhaps it will ease some burdens." Maya's eyes welled with tears. "Thank you, truly." Madame Rose nodded. "Keep fighting, Maya. You're stronger than you realize."
The days that followed were a delicate balance of hope and hardship. Maya continued to navigate the treacherous waters of the mansion, her spirit unbroken. The surgery loomed, a beacon of possibility and fear.
One afternoon, Maya found herself in the garden with Samuel, the gardener.
He offered quiet encouragement, reminding her that resilience often blooms in unexpected places.
As night fell, Maya whispered a prayer for strength, knowing the battles ahead would test every ounce of her courage.
But she was ready to face whatever came for Deborah, for herself, and for the promise of a new dawn.
Pause. How will Maya face the ultimate test? Keep watching BUP Stories to find out.
The morning light seeped softly through the heavy drapes, casting a warm glow over the vast mansion. Maya sat at the kitchen table, clutching a steaming mug of coffee, but her thoughts were far away in the sterile hospital room where Deborah lay. The weight of the upcoming surgery pressed heavily on her chest, mingling with the exhaustion of endless days filled with tension and uncertainty.
Mama Roni bustled in, her presence a comforting balm amid the chaos.
"You've been quiet this morning," she observed gently, setting a plate of warm biscuits beside Maya.
"It's okay to let the fear out sometimes." Maya offered a tired smile. "It's hard not to be afraid. Every moment feels like walking a tightrope." Mama nodded knowingly. "Fear doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. But you've got a fire in you, Maya. Don't let it burn out." As the day unfolded, Maya found herself retreating into moments of solitude.
The mansion, with all its grandeur and shadows, felt both sanctuary and prison. She walked the polished halls with purpose, yet the echo of her footsteps reminded her of the loneliness that often accompanied her. In the afternoon, Madame Rose summoned her to the drawing room. The usual sharpness in her voice was softened by a hint of vulnerability. "I've arranged a meeting with a specialist from a children's charity," she said, handing Maya a letter of introduction. "They may be able to assist with Deborah's care beyond what we've managed so far." Maya's heart fluttered with cautious hope.
"Thank you, ma'am. This could mean everything."
The exchange marked a turning point not just in Maya's battle for her daughter's health, but in the fragile bridge forming between her and Madame Rose. Later, as the sun dipped low, Maya wandered into the garden, the scent of blooming jasmine wrapping around her like a gentle embrace. Samuel, the gardener, appeared beside her, his weathered face softening in the twilight. "Sometimes," he said quietly, "the strongest roots grow in the hardest soil." Maya smiled, drawing strength from his words. "I just want Deborah to have a chance, that's all." "And she will," Samuel assured her. "Because you're fighting for her with everything you've got." The evening brought a quiet respite. Maya sat by the window in her small room, penning a letter to a friend who had offered help. Each word was a step toward hope, a thread woven into the tapestry of their uncertain future. As night deepened, Maya closed her eyes, envisioning Deborah's smile, the light that had carried her this far.
The mansion's walls seemed less daunting, the shadows less suffocating. In the stillness, Maya found a fragile peace.
Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but also new strength.
And for Maya Williams, that was enough to keep moving forward. Pause. Will Maya's hope carry her through the final trials? Stay tuned to BUP Stories for the next chapter.
The mansion was quiet that morning, the usual hum of activity tempered by the weight of unspoken worries. Maya moved through the halls with a practiced ease, though her heart remained heavy. The letter she had sent to the children's charity had sparked a glimmer of hope, but the reality of Deborah's surgery loomed ever closer. As she prepared breakfast in the expansive kitchen, the sound of footsteps approached. Mr. Richard appeared, his expression inscrutable as always. He paused by the counter, watching Maya work. "You've handled yourself well," he said, voice low but firm.
"Not everyone would have the strength to face what you have." Maya met his gaze, surprised by the rare compliment. "Thank you, sir. I'm just doing what I must."
He nodded and moved on, leaving Maya with a flicker of something new, a sense that her efforts were seen, even if unspoken. Later that day, Madame Rose called Maya to the drawing room. The atmosphere was tense, her usual guarded demeanor returning.
"I need you to prepare for an important visitor," she said, handing Maya a list. "Someone who could change the course of things."
Maya studied the names: philanthropists, doctors, social influencers, the kind of people who held sway over resources and opportunities.
As the preparations began, Maya felt the immense pressure settle over her shoulders. Every detail mattered. Every interaction held weight.
The mansion buzzed with anticipation and undercurrents of uncertainty. The visitor arrived in the late afternoon, a poised woman named Dr. Evelyn Grant, known for her work in pediatric healthcare advocacy. Her sharp eyes scanned the room, lingering briefly on Maya, whose calm presence seemed to catch her attention. Introductions were brief but cordial. Madame Rose spoke eloquently about the charity luncheon and her commitment to supporting children in need.
Dr. Grant listened intently, her expression thoughtful. As the meeting progressed, Maya observed the subtle dance of power and persuasion.
Madame Rose's facade of control contrasted with moments of genuine concern, particularly when the conversation turned to Deborah's case.
After the visitor departed, Madame Rose turned to Maya.
"This could open doors for Deborah," she said quietly.
"But it's not guaranteed. We have to keep fighting." Maya nodded, determination burning brighter. "I'm ready." That evening, as the household settled, Maya found herself alone in the garden, gazing at the stars. The weight of the day's events pressed upon her, but beneath it was a quiet strength, a belief that despite the obstacles, change was possible. Her thoughts drifted to Deborah, to the tiny hands she held, the fragile breath she took. Maya whispered a promise into the night. No matter what, she would never give up. The mansion, with all its grandeur and secrets, had become a crucible for Maya's resilience. Each challenge was a test. Each victory a step closer to the future she dreamed of for herself, for Deborah, and for the fragile hope that bound them together. Pause. Can Maya's determination open new doors? Don't miss the next part of her story on BUP Stories. The tension in the mansion had reached a palpable peak. As the days grew shorter and the date of Deborah's surgery loomed ever closer, Maya's every movement was shadowed by a mixture of anticipation and anxiety, the burden of responsibility resting heavily on her shoulders. The fragile alliance between her and Madame Rose had deepened, but the undercurrents of past wounds and unspoken fears lingered like a thin veil. One afternoon, Maya found herself summoned to Madame Rose's private study. The room was dimly lit, heavy drapes drawn against the fading sunlight. Madame Rose sat behind a grand desk, her posture rigid, her eyes sharper than usual. There was an uncharacteristic tension in the air. "Maya," she began, her voice steady but edged with something deeper. "I need to speak frankly." Maya nodded, bracing herself. "There are whispers among the staff," Madame Rose continued, "doubts about your loyalty, your intentions. It seems some cannot accept that you have become more than just a servant." Maya's heart tightened, but she met Madame Rose's gaze without flinching. "I'm aware, ma'am. I've faced suspicion before. It's not new." Madame Rose sighed, a flicker of vulnerability crossing her features. "I want to believe in you, Maya. Truly. But trust is not given lightly in this house.
Before Maya could respond, the heavy oak door creaked open, and Mr. Richard entered, his presence commanding immediate attention. He regarded both women silently for a moment.
"I've been informed of the unrest," he said finally.
"Maya, I want you to know that I value your dedication, but this household has rules, and loyalty is paramount." Maya bowed her head respectfully.
"I understand, sir. I remain committed." Richard nodded curtly before turning to Madame Rose.
"We must ensure the staff is united, or this household will crumble."
Madame Rose's eyes met Maya's once more. "We have work to do."
In the following days, Maya faced the scrutiny of those who doubted her. Whispers and sideways glances accompanied her steps, yet her resolve never wavered. Each task completed, each small victory chipped away at the walls of suspicion. One evening, as Maya was finishing her duties, she overheard a conversation between two staff members in the hallway.
"I don't trust her," one whispered. "She's too close to Madame Rose." "What's she after?" Maya's fists clenched briefly, but she chose silence, knowing that time and consistency were her allies.
The turning point came during a gala hosted in the mansion, a gathering of influential figures from the city's elite. Maya moved through the crowd with grace, attending to guests with quiet efficiency.
Madame Rose's earlier coldness had softened.
She introduced Maya as a trusted companion, surprising many.
As the night progressed, a mishap threatened to unravel the delicate harmony.
A valuable piece of jewelry went missing, and suspicion again fell on Maya. The room held its breath as Madame Rose approached her.
"Where is it, Maya?"
she demanded, her voice low but fierce.
Maya met her gaze steadily. "I didn't take it, ma'am. I don't know where it is."
The room was silent, tension thick. Then, a sharp-eyed guest pointed to a table where the missing item lay hidden beneath a velvet cloth, accidentally displaced, but not stolen.
Relief and apologies followed, but the incident underscored the fragile trust Maya was still fighting to earn. Later that night, Madame Rose sought Maya out privately.
"You've endured much," she said softly.
"And yet you remain steadfast. That is a rare strength." Maya smiled, exhaustion etched in her features.
"I have to be strong for Deborah." Madame Rose nodded, a faint warmth in her eyes.
"And that strength has not gone unnoticed." As the mansion settled into quiet, Maya allowed herself a moment of reflection.
The path ahead was still fraught with challenges, but the battles fought and won had forged a resilience she never knew she possessed. In the heart of the mansion, amid shadows and light, a new chapter was beginning, not just for Maya, but for everyone bound by the fragile threads of trust, hope, and redemption.
Pause. Will Maya's resilience break through the final barriers?
Keep watching BUP Stories to see how her story unfolds. The days that followed the gala unfolded with a strange mixture of tension and cautious optimism. Maya found herself navigating the mansion's labyrinthine corridors with a growing confidence, her every step echoing the silent battles she fought within. Though suspicion still lingered in some eyes, others had begun to see her in a new light, a woman not merely surviving, but quietly reshaping the world around her.
One afternoon, Maya was called to Madame Rose's private sitting room. The atmosphere was different, less formal, more intimate.
Madame Rose stood by the window, gazing out at the sprawling gardens, her posture relaxed yet thoughtful.
"Maya," she began without turning. "There's something I want to show you." Curiosity piqued, Maya followed her to a locked cabinet tucked into the corner of the room.
Madame Rose retrieved a small, worn photo album, its leather cover cracked with age. "These are memories I rarely revisit," Madame Rose said softly, opening the book to reveal sepia-toned photographs of a younger version of herself, a woman smiling with a freedom Maya had never seen before.
"My childhood was far from perfect," Madame Rose continued.
"But there was a time when laughter was not a stranger.
These pictures remind me of who I used to be and who I hope I can be again." Maya listened intently, the walls of distance between them beginning to crumble.
"Thank you for sharing this with me," she said gently.
"Sometimes remembering where we come from helps us find where we're going." Madame Rose nodded, eyes glistening with unshed tears. "You've changed much here, Maya. Not just the household, but me. Your strength and kindness have opened doors I thought were forever closed."
Before Maya could respond, the door opened quietly, and Mr. Richard entered.
His presence was steady, anchoring the moment with an unspoken weight.
"I hope I'm not intruding," he said, his gaze shifting between the two women.
"But I wanted to discuss the upcoming charity initiative. Maya's connections could be invaluable." Maya glanced at Madame Rose, surprised but hopeful. "I'm ready to help in any way I can."
Richard smiled faintly. "Good, because this could change everything for Deborah, for you, and for the work we do here." The conversation turned to plans and possibilities, a rare glimpse of collaboration in the mansion's usually rigid hierarchy. That evening, as Maya prepared dinner in the bustling kitchen, a sudden commotion erupted outside. Rushing to the grand foyer, she found Madame Rose confronting a group of staff members in heated discussion. The cause was clear: a rumor had surfaced, questioning Maya's intentions once more.
Maya stepped forward calmly, addressing the gathering with quiet authority.
"I understand the fear of change, but I'm here because of love for my daughter and for the future I'm fighting to build.
I ask only for your trust and respect."
Her words hung in the air, met with a mixture of nods and hesitant glances. Slowly, the tension eased, replaced by a tentative acceptance. Later that night, Maya sat by the window, reflecting on the day's trials and triumphs. The mansion, with all its grandeur and secrets, was transforming not just physically, but in spirit. The walls that once confined her were beginning to give way to something new: hope, resilience, and the promise of redemption. As she whispered a prayer for Deborah's strength, Maya knew the road ahead remained uncertain. But with each step, she was forging a path not just for survival, but for a life reborn amid the shadows and light of this grand estate.
Pause. Can Maya's quiet strength change the heart of the mansion? Stay with BUP Stories for the next chapter of her journey.
The morning sun filtered softly through the tall windows of the mansion, casting a warm glow over the polished floors and elegant furnishings. Maya moved quietly through the halls, her thoughts consumed by the recent shifts in the household and by the weight of the upcoming surgery for Deborah.
Each step she took was measured, deliberate, the result of months of quiet perseverance and a heart full of hope.
She found herself in the conservatory, tending to the delicate orchids that seemed to flourish despite the cold walls surrounding them. The scent of jasmine mingled with the morning air, a subtle reminder of life's persistent beauty. Madame Rose entered silently, her presence no longer commanding but tentative, as if unsure of the new dynamic between them.
"Maya," she began softly. "There's something I've been meaning to tell you." Maya looked up, meeting Madame Rose's gaze. "I'm listening, ma'am."
Madame Rose sighed, folding her hands in her lap. "I realize now how much I've carried, how much I've let fear and pride dictate my actions. You've shown me a strength I thought I lost long ago."
Maya smiled gently. "It's never too late to find it again." The admission seemed to lighten the room, a bridge forming between two women from vastly different worlds, bound now by shared vulnerability and mutual respect.
Later that day, Maya received a visit from Dr. Evelyn Grant, the pediatric specialist who had become involved in Deborah's care. Her presence brought a renewed sense of purpose. "We've reviewed Deborah's case extensively," Dr. Grant explained, her tone both clinical and compassionate.
"The surgery is complex but promising.
With the right postoperative care, she has a strong chance." Maya's heart lifted, the heavy burden momentarily eased. "Thank you for everything," she whispered.
Dr. Grant smiled warmly. "You're doing all the right things. Deborah is lucky to have you."
As the days wore on, preparations for the surgery intensified. Maya found solace in the routine: cleaning, organizing, supporting Madame Rose, and navigating the subtle politics of the mansion. The staff's whispers had softened, replaced by tentative smiles and occasional nods.
One afternoon, Maya overheard a conversation between two longtime employees.
"She's changed things here," one said quietly. "Not just the work, but the atmosphere.
It's lighter."
The other nodded in agreement.
"It's hard to believe she's the same woman who walked in months ago." That evening, as twilight draped the mansion in hues of lavender and gold, Madame Rose invited Maya to join her in the library. Shelves lined with leather-bound books and antique trinkets created an intimate sanctuary.
"I want to thank you," Madame Rose said sincerely, "for your patience, your courage, and your kindness."
Maya shook her head.
It's you who taught me about resilience, about the cost of pride, and the power of forgiveness. They shared a quiet smile, a moment of true connection amid the grandeur and isolation. As night fell, Maya sat by her window once more, gazing at the stars that twinkled against the velvet sky. The road ahead was still fraught with uncertainty, but the seeds of change had taken root. For Maya Williams, the fight was far from over, but with each passing day, the mansion grew warmer, not just in light, but in heart. And that was a victory worth every struggle. Pause. How will Maya's journey shape the future? Don't miss the next chapter on BUP Stories. The days leading up to Deborah's surgery were a whirlwind of preparation and quiet anticipation. Maya moved through the mansion with a focused intensity, her every action fueled by the urgency of the moment. The once distant hope of healing had crystallized into a clear, unwavering goal. The morning air was crisp as Maya stepped into the garden, the soft rustling of leaves providing a momentary reprieve from the weight pressing on her heart. Samuel, the gardener, was tending to the rose bushes, his weathered hands carefully pruning the delicate blooms. "Morning, Maya," he greeted with a warm smile. "You look like you're carrying the weight of the world today." Maya chuckled softly, the sound tinged with exhaustion. "Sometimes it feels that way, but I've learned that even the heaviest burdens can be carried with the right support." Samuel nodded, his eyes kind. "You're stronger than you know." As the day progressed, the mansion buzzed with a heightened energy. Staff members moved with purpose, aware of the significance of the coming days. Madame Rose, though reserved, offered subtle gestures of support, an approving glance here, a quiet word of encouragement there. That evening, Maya received a message from the hospital. The surgery was scheduled for the following morning. The finality of the moment settled over her like a heavy cloak. She sat alone in her room, the soft glow of a single lamp casting long shadows. Her fingers traced the worn edges of a photograph, Deborah's smiling face, fragile yet fierce. A surge of determination filled her chest. "I'm coming for you, baby," she whispered. "Hold on just a little longer." The night was restless, filled with dreams of hope and fear intertwined. Maya woke before dawn, the first light filtering through the curtains as she prepared to face the most important day of her life. At the hospital, the sterile corridors and beeping monitors were a stark contrast to the warmth of the mansion. Maya sat by Deborah's bedside, holding her tiny hand, offering silent prayers. The hours stretched, heavy with tension. Then a doctor emerged, his face calm but serious. "The surgery was successful," he announced. "Deborah is stable and recovering well." Relief crashed over Maya like a tidal wave. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered gratitude to the heavens. Returning to the mansion days later, Maya was greeted with cautious smiles and gentle nods. Madame Rose awaited her in the drawing room, a bouquet of fresh lilies in hand. "You fought hard," Madame Rose said softly. "And Deborah is lucky to have you." Maya smiled, the fatigue still etched in her features, but overshadowed by a deep sense of victory. As the mansion settled into a new rhythm, Maya reflected on the journey, a path marked by trials, resilience, and unexpected alliances. The battle was far from over, but the dawn had broken. And in that light, Maya found the strength to keep moving forward. Pause. How will Maya's victory shape her future? Stay tuned to BUP Stories for the next part of her story. The mansion seemed to breathe a quiet sigh of relief the day Maya returned from the hospital. The heavy weight of uncertainty that had hung over the grand estate lifted slightly, replaced by a tentative hope. Maya's steps were slower now, the exhaustion from the emotional and physical toll settling into her bones. But her spirit remained unbroken. Madame Rose awaited her in the drawing room, a vase of freshly picked lilies resting on the table beside her. Her usually composed demeanor was softened by a genuine smile, the kind that reached her eyes and revealed the depth of the journey they had both endured. "You have been through so much," Madame Rose said gently, rising to embrace Maya. "Deborah is fortunate to have you." Maya returned the embrace, feeling the fragile bond between them strengthen. "Thank you, ma'am. Your support has meant more than I can say." The days that followed were a slow return to routine, yet nothing felt quite the same. Maya moved through the mansion with a newfound sense of belonging. The whispers of doubt faded into the background. The staff's glances were warmer,
their interactions more genuine.
Maya's place in the household was no longer that of an outsider, but a woman who had fought and earned her respect. One afternoon, as Maya was organizing the library, Madame Rose joined her, carrying a stack of books. "I've been thinking," she said thoughtfully, "about the future, not just for Deborah, but for all of us here." Maya looked up, intrigued. "I want this house to be a place of trust and compassion," Madame Rose continued. "A place where people are valued, not just for what they do, but for who they are." Maya smiled, touched by the sincerity in Madame Rose's voice. "That would be a beautiful change." Madame Rose nodded. "It starts with us. I want to make amends for the past and build something better." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Mr. Richard, who carried with him a sense of finality and purpose. "I've been reviewing the plans for the upcoming charity initiatives," he announced. "With Maya's involvement, we have an opportunity to make a real difference." Maya felt a surge of pride and responsibility. "I'm honored to help," she said earnestly. The mansion began to buzz with new energy, plans were made, alliances forged, and a shared vision took root. Maya found herself at the heart of it all, bridging worlds with grace and determination. One evening, as the household gathered for a quiet dinner, Madame Rose raised a glass. "To new beginnings," she toasted, "to resilience, to forgiveness, and to the strength we find in each other." Glasses clinked softly, smiles blossomed, and for the first time in a long while, the mansion felt like a home. Maya looked around the room, her heart full. The journey had been arduous, but the promise of tomorrow shone brightly, a testament to the power of hope, love, and the unyielding human spirit. Pause. Can this newfound family withstand the tests of time? Stay with BUP Stories to find out. The dawn broke quietly over the mansion, casting a soft glow through the tall windows as Maya prepared for what felt like the most pivotal day of her life. The surgery for Deborah was behind her, but the challenges were far from over. The road to recovery stretched ahead, filled with unknowns and the relentless demand for resilience. In the early morning light, Maya moved through the grand kitchen, her movements deliberate and steady. Mama Roni was already bustling about, humming a gentle tune as she prepared a hearty breakfast. "You're looking strong today," Mama said, sliding a plate toward Maya. "Strength isn't just about the body, it's about the heart." Maya nodded, the weight of the moment settling in her chest. "I'll need all the strength I can get." The mansion was alive with a different energy now, a blend of hope, cautious optimism, and the unspoken understanding that the journey was just beginning. Madame Rose greeted Maya with a warm smile, a stark contrast to the coldness that once defined her presence. "How is Deborah?" she asked softly. "Stable," Maya replied, her voice steady despite the lingering fatigue. "The doctors are hopeful, but there's a long road ahead." Madame Rose reached out, placing a reassuring hand on Maya's arm. "We'll face it together." The day unfolded with small victories, phone calls from specialists, visits from nurses, and moments of laughter shared with Deborah during brief hospital visits. Maya balanced her duties in the mansion with the pressing needs of her daughter, each step a testament to her unwavering commitment. Yet, beneath the surface, tensions simmered. Some staff members struggled to reconcile the changes, their old loyalties clashing with the evolving dynamics. Whispers of dissent circled like shadows, threatening to unravel the fragile peace. One afternoon, Maya overheard a heated exchange between two servants in the kitchen. "She's gotten too close to Madame Rose," one hissed. "We're all just waiting for her to slip." Maya's fists clenched, but she forced herself to breathe deeply. The battles were no longer just about survival, they were about proving worth and breaking barriers. That evening, Madame Rose invited Maya to a private meeting in the library. The room was dimly lit, the soft glow of a lamp casting gentle shadows. "I know the path ahead won't be easy," Madame Rose began, her voice low and sincere. "But your strength has changed this house. Don't let the doubts of others shake you." Maya met her gaze, feeling the depth of the unspoken bond. "I won't, ma'am, for Deborah and for all of us." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden knock at the door. Mr. Richard entered, his presence commanding attention. "We've received confirmation," he announced. "Deborah's treatment plan has been approved for extended care and support. This is a victory for Maya and for the family." The room filled with quiet celebration, a moment of relief in the ongoing storm. As night fell, Maya sat by her window, gazing at the stars. The mansion, with its history and secrets, had become a place of transformation, a symbol of hope and resilience. Though the battles were far from over, Maya knew one thing with certainty: she was no longer alone. Together, they would face whatever came next, their strength forged in the fires of struggle and love.
Pause. Will Maya's strength unite the household? Stay tuned to BUP Stories for the next chapter. The mansion settled into a new rhythm as the days passed, the echoes of past tensions softened by the gentle hum of healing and hope.
Maya found herself navigating a world transformed not just within the walls of the grand estate, but within her own heart. Deborah's recovery was steady, each small improvement a victory that fueled Maya's determination. One bright morning, Maya entered the grand dining hall to find Madame Rose already seated, her expression thoughtful yet serene. The ice that once defined her demeanor had melted into something warmer, a kindness that surprised even Maya. "Good morning, Maya," Madame Rose greeted her, her voice carrying a rare softness. "Good morning, ma'am," Maya replied, taking a seat across from her. Madame Rose studied her for a moment before speaking. "I've been reflecting on everything: the past, the struggles, the journey we've shared. It's clear to me now that strength is not just about endurance, but about connection."
Maya nodded, feeling the weight of those words settle between them.
"I want to offer you something," Madame Rose continued, reaching into a velvet-lined box on the table.
She opened it to reveal a delicate silver necklace with a small heart-shaped pendant.
"This was my mother's.
It symbolizes love and resilience. I want you to have it."
Maya's eyes welled with tears, the gesture more profound than words could express.
"Thank you, ma'am.
I'll cherish it always." Their bond deepened in that quiet moment, a testament to the healing power of forgiveness and trust.
As the weeks unfolded, Maya's role in the mansion evolved.
She was no longer just the maid who had saved a life, she had become a trusted confidant, a pillar of strength for the household. Madame Rose sought her counsel on matters both personal and professional, valuing her insight and unwavering loyalty.
One afternoon, Maya received a call from Deborah's doctor.
The latest scans showed remarkable progress, a sign that the grueling journey was beginning to yield rewards.
Maya's heart soared with hope.
Later that evening, the mansion hosted a small gathering to celebrate the milestones reached. Friends, family, and colleagues gathered in the opulent drawing room, their laughter and conversation weaving a tapestry of joy and gratitude. Maya stood near the fireplace, watching as Madame Rose spoke eloquently about the power of resilience and the importance of community. Her words resonated deeply with all present, a reminder of the transformative journey they had undertaken together. As the night wore on, Maya found herself surrounded by newfound friends and allies, their warmth a balm to the scars of the past. Returning to her quarters later, Maya held the silver necklace close, a symbol of the journey that had brought her here. The mansion, once a place of shadows and doubt, now shimmered with the light of possibility. And as Maya closed her eyes that night, she knew that while the road ahead remained uncertain, she would face it with courage, love, and the unbreakable strength forged in the heart of this extraordinary home.
Pause. Can this newfound hope endure? Keep watching BUP Stories to find out.
The mansion was alive with a gentle hum of celebration as Maya stood by the grand window, gazing out at the manicured gardens bathed in the soft glow of twilight. The journey had been long and arduous, but tonight marked a turning point not just for Deborah's recovery, but for Maya's place within this once forbidding estate. The silver heart pendant rested lightly against her chest, a constant reminder of resilience and the unexpected bonds forged through hardship. The evening's gathering was intimate, filled with familiar faces who had witnessed the transformation unfolding within the mansion's walls. Madame Rose moved gracefully among the guests, her once icy demeanor replaced by a warm smile that reached her eyes. She paused beside Maya, offering a look that spoke of gratitude and newfound respect. "You've come far," Madame Rose whispered, her voice sincere. "Not just for Deborah, but for all of us."
Maya nodded,
emotions welling beneath her calm exterior. "It's been a journey, ma'am, one I couldn't have walked without your support." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Mr. Richard, who raised his glass to the assembled guests. "To strength," he began, his voice steady and commanding, "to forgiveness, and to the future we will build together."
Glasses clinked in unison, a chorus of hope echoing through the room. As the night deepened, Maya found herself reflecting on the walls she had climbed, the battles fought in silence, and the bridges built from compassion and determination. The mansion, once a symbol of isolation and fear, had become a beacon of change. Later, as the guests departed and the household settled into quiet, Maya retreated to her room. She sat by the window, the city lights twinkling like distant stars. Her thoughts turned to Deborah, whose laughter filled the halls during recent visits, a sound that had once seemed impossible. Maya whispered a prayer of thanks, her heart filled with a profound sense of peace. The road ahead remained uncertain, filled with challenges yet to come. But Maya was no longer the woman who had walked through the mansion's doors months ago. She was a force forged by love, resilience, and the unyielding spirit of hope. And as she closed her eyes, the mansion around her seemed to breathe with a quiet promise that no matter the darkness, light could always find a way to shine through. Pause. Will Maya's light continue to shine? Stay with BUP Stories for the final chapter of her journey. The first light of dawn crept gently through the tall windows of the mansion, casting a golden hue over the polished floors and soft furnishings. Maya stood at the threshold of the grand entrance hall, her eyes tracing the familiar contours of the estate that had been both a battleground and a sanctuary over the past months. The journey she had taken was etched into every step, every whispered conversation, and every quiet victory that now filled these walls. She held the silver heart pendant close to her chest, its cool surface a tangible reminder of resilience, hope, and the unbreakable bond forged through hardship and compassion. The necklace was more than a gift, it was a symbol of transformation, a beacon that illuminated the path she had walked and the future she was determined to build. Maya's thoughts drifted to Deborah, whose laughter and bright spirit had returned like the first blossoms of spring after a long winter. The surgery and recovery had been grueling, but each day brought new strength, new moments of joy, and the promise of a life reclaimed. In the quiet of the morning, Maya found herself reflecting on the mosaic of experiences that had shaped her journey, from the harsh beginnings beneath Madame Rose's icy gaze to the fragile friendship that had blossomed amidst adversity. The mansion had witnessed tears and triumphs, suspicions and forgiveness, fear and courage. She thought of Madame Rose, whose transformation had been as profound as her own. The woman who once ruled with an iron fist had learned to embrace vulnerability, to extend kindness, and to find strength in connection rather than control. Their shared journey had bridged worlds and hearts, forging a new chapter for both. Maya turned toward the drawing room, where Madame Rose awaited. The room was bathed in soft morning light, the air filled with the scent of fresh lilies, the same flowers that had marked so many moments of change. Madame Rose rose as Maya entered, her eyes reflecting a mixture of pride and gratitude. "We've come far," Madame Rose said quietly. "Farther than I ever imagined possible." Maya smiled, the weight of unspoken words hanging between them. "And yet, there is still so much to do." Madame Rose nodded. "Yes, but we face it together now." Their hands met in a gesture of solidarity, a silent vow to continue the work of healing not just within these walls, but in the world beyond. As the mansion began to stir with the sounds of a new day, Maya felt a profound sense of peace settle within her. The battles had been many, the scars both visible and hidden, but the journey had forged a strength that could not be broken. Looking out at the horizon, Maya whispered a prayer not just for Deborah, but for all who struggle in silence, who fight for justice, love, and a chance to be seen for who they truly are. The mansion, once a fortress of fear and isolation, now stood as a testament to resilience, hope, and the enduring power of the human spirit. And as the sun rose higher, bathing the estate in light, Maya knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, she would face them with courage, compassion, and the unwavering belief that even in the darkest times, the light of hope could never be extinguished. This story teaches us that true strength comes not from power or control, but from resilience, compassion, and the courage to face adversity with an open heart. It reminds us that healing, whether of the self or others, often begins with forgiveness and the willingness to build bridges where walls once stood. Through Maya's journey, we learn that love and determination can break down barriers of fear and prejudice, transforming even the coldest places into homes filled with hope. Above all, the story highlights that no matter how difficult the path, holding on to hope and embracing human connection can lead to profound change and redemption. Pause. Inspired by Maya's journey? Subscribe to BUP Stories for more tales of courage, hope, and transformation. Don't forget to like and comment below. Where are you watching from? Maybe someone near you is tuning in too.